I'm so excited to kick off our UWSP Clarinet Masterclass Series with someone that I have known for quite some time, actually, but we have only really crossed paths for a short period of time. Staff Sergeant Sam Ross, who is one of the clarinetists in the President's Own United States Marine Band. So I'm just going to read you a little bit about our guest today. So Staff Sergeant Sam Ross joined the President's Own United States Marine Band in September 2018. Staff Sergeant Ross began his musical training on piano at age 8, percussion at 11, and clarinet at 15. After graduating in 2003 from Russellville High School, he attended the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, where he earned a bachelor's degree in music performance in 2007. He continued his studies at the University of North Texas in Denton, where he earned a master's degree in clarinet performance in 2009 and studied with John Scott. He has also studied with Yehuda Gilad of the University of Southern California and Gregory Radin of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra. Prior to joining the President's Own, Staff Sergeant Ross served with the West Point Band at the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York, from 2012 to 2018, where he also performed with the Academy Wind Quintet. In addition, he has performed with the Hudson Valley Philharmonic in, I don't know how to say this. Can you, Poughkeepsie?
Poughkeepsie.
Poughkeepsie, New York. The Arkansas Symphony Orchestra in Little Rock, and the Victoria Symphony Orchestra and Lone Star Wind Orchestra, both in Texas. Staff Sergeant Ross also taught privately in the Louisville, Texas school district for 4 years. So let's give him a huge round of applause. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So our first performer for you will be Earl Bischoff. So Earl is a first-year student here at UWSP studying clarinet performance. He is from a suburb of Madison called Middleton, and he will be playing the Weber Concertino.
Perfect. And that's where I'm stopping.
Great job. Very nice. I was actually about to say that's probably a good stopping point, but you took care of it. And this is my first time seeing a clarinetist play with a mask on, I think. So kudos to you. This is a new experience for me. Okay, great job. There's a lot of really good stuff happening. It sounds like you have a pretty good foundation with this piece so far. One question right off the bat. Have you yet played this with piano by any chance?
I have not, no.
Okay. Fair enough. And I know right now, maybe none of us are playing with piano. I'm not even really sure how that's working for you guys, but fair enough. One thing I would do, even maybe before your next practice session even, is to take the piano score. If you don't have it, find a way to look at it and listen through a recording of the piece while watching through the piano score, just to give yourself an idea of what's happening underneath all of the solo lines that you're doing. There are a few moments where I like what you're doing because you're showing musicality and you're taking some time in some spots. But some of them are spots where the piano is just kind of playing a real steady kind of motor type figure, and it's going to be a little tricky to allow those things to happen. So there are definitely many moments in this piece where you can take some of those time, but just make sure it's where the piano is either not playing or somewhere where they can easily kind of detect what you're going to do. And of course, you can discuss that with your accompanist, your pianist, whenever you do play this with them. So let's work backwards a little bit, since we'll kind of go off what we just heard. I love this section you just played, the slow, the lento section. I think it's a great contrast, and I think you did a good job of creating that contrast and kind of showing us a different character in your playing. If you had to choose between all the fast stuff that's happening and this kind of slow section, which do you prefer to play?
Usually I prefer to play slower sections.
Okay, I can sort of tell that from what I heard just a little bit. I'm sort of the same way. So we'll talk a little bit more in the fast sections about how to kind of get a little more energy and sort of excitement there. But I think a lot of the slow stuff was really nice. the first thing that came to mind when you played the opening, and then also in this section, is Weber does use, or at least the editor of the solo, used accents quite a bit in the slow music. And we kind of want to just be careful that our accent isn't primarily a articulated or percussive type accent, that this is like Romantic era writing. Weber wrote a lot of opera, so we want to kind of have it be a slightly more gentle accent, if I can use that word. So thinking more about emphasis rather than a really sharp beginning to the note. So what I might do is practice starting those notes with just my air, and not have it be, again, such a sharp contrast, but just a gentler, rounder accent. Can we try just the opening two bars of the lento, the starting on that low F, going to the A flat with the accent? Yeah, yeah. Already it sounds more elegant and refined. Those more percussive type accents can come in handy for some styles. I'm thinking like more Stravinsky marches sometimes have a little more of that aggressive articulation for accents. But here, I think you can err more on that side. I think you definitely want to show them, but maybe not overdo them too much. But really, really nice. A lot of the legato was real good. Let's go back to the second variation, which is the most of the 16 notes that we've heard so far. Yeah, the F major section. Again, a lot of good stuff here too. The one thing is the timing thing we talked about a little bit with taking time. There's only a couple moments where the piano or the orchestra is not in, where you'll have that time, but the rest of it has to be pretty strict. So you have choices to make as far as articulation patterns, slurring and tonguing and that sort of thing. Whatever you decide to do, you'll probably hear it a million different ways if you listen to a bunch of recordings. It's more of a personal choice, and you can decide that with your teacher too. But just making sure you can keep all of that in rhythm. That's going to be the most important thing. And not allowing the dynamics to kind of pull us one way or the other. We tend to rush when we play louder. We tend to drag when we play a little softer. So you can kind of resist those. And the metronome is going to, of course, be your closest friend in this variation. Can we just start from the top of that variation again?
Sure.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. And then do you have the repeat there?
I don't have a repeat in my music. No.
Okay, I feel like that section repeats again, but maybe it's just my addition. I have it repeating again and then like starting softer, but anyway, we'll not worry about that for right now. Yeah, I think that's nice. That felt a little bit steadier to me. As far as the articulation goes, I think we want to strive for a slightly more legato tongue here, and only reason being is because it is a little faster. Those real sharp short staccatos are going to kind of slow us down a little bit, and they may be a little too short for this speed. So how do you typically think about the tongue stroke? Are you thinking kind of a T type syllable, or what do you kind of think about whenever you're tonguing?
I'd say it's like a T, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I think normally that works pretty well. I think you maybe could even soften it to sort of a D type tongue stroke. I think that might help. Um, One way to practice this is playing, let's say, just like an open G, and putting your tongue against the reed, but only enough where the sound is still happening. It doesn't close up. So normally if we put our tongue on the reed while we're playing, it has that really stopped effect, right? But if we do it more gently and kind of hold our tongue against the reed, but very lightly, so where I'm still able to get a sound, but the tongue is touching the reed. If we can go for more of that type of tongue stroke here, instead of, you hear the difference a little bit. And it allows us to hear the note a little bit better too. So each note is a little more present and a little more full. And I think that's kind of what we're going for. Can you just try that a little bit? Maybe just the first bar or so?
Sure.
Yeah, that's the idea, actually. I can already hear an actual difference. It's a different style of tonguing than maybe what you're used to or what you kind of fall back on. Obviously, we have super short staccato and we have super long legato tonguing, and we have a whole spectrum in between. And so we kind of have to be able to move back and forth from different styles. And I think this one could be a little bit longer as you get faster. When you get slower, you can do a little bit more of that stop tonguing. But I would pursue that a little more in this section. Can you go to the next section for me? The one that starts with that half rest, starting on the thumb or the first finger F sharp.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, it sounds really good. This is the section I feel the most unsure of your timing. It feels a little like it's pushing and pulling a little bit. And I think some rubato is okay, but I think we don't want to exaggerate it so much that the listener isn't sure if you're doing rubato or if there's just kind of a little bit of time crunch there. So just try to play it once, just really, really steady. And I think going a little bit more for that legato articulation in the 16ths again, like we were talking about. Can you try it one more time? No need to go super fast. It doesn't have to be ultimate performance tempo. If you want to slow it down just a little bit for now, that's fine. Okay, yeah, already much, much better. Rhythms are much better. When you get to, you see that dotted half note on the high A, that run that goes up to that dotted half note on the high A. So this is what I was talking about when you need to take a look at the piano part. So on beats 2 and 3, the piano has dun, dun, dun on beats 2 and 3, and that's going to be how you kind of, you got to allow space for that. So right now we're cutting off that A just a little bit. So it's just one of those things where when you go back through with the score and you can kind of compare with your part, it'll help to kind of fill in the gaps of what's missing, just to kind of keep yourself honest with the rhythms there. That was already really good. And again, to my previous point about the accents, I think this is another spot where it can be a slightly more gentle, luxurious type accent, I guess. Sorry. So a little more of an emphasis. more than just a sharp thing. And that A, I think it can be staccato, but maybe try to release it a little more with the air rather than the tongue. So, sorry. So there's still kind of a ring to the sound rather than a forceful cutoff. Can you just try that one more time for me, the beginning there? Yeah, already cleaner, more refined sounding to me. So I think you can even exaggerate that a little more. One thing that your teachers probably told you, and I'll tell other people too, is that what we think we're doing when we're playing, the things we think we're doing, maybe whether it be dynamics or whatnot, doesn't always come through to the degree we think it does. So it's really good to record yourself, first of all. And then oftentimes you just kind of need to do more of that thing in order to get it across to the listener, whether it be a crescendo, what have you. And I think this is one of those things where you can kind of exaggerate that a little more while keeping it, rigid in time. That was the only other comment I had for you, I think, was just dynamics. There were, and maybe we just have different editions, and that's okay. When you do have, especially in the introduction of the piece, we kind of go back and forth between forte and piano. And he's kind of trying to be dramatic and set the stage for the piece. And I think there you have a really nice piano sound. So I think making sure you actually do that when it's called for, making sure you really come down to contrast with the fortes, to make that really pop and make that really kind of just have a lot more character, I guess is what I'm saying. How are we doing on time?
Ready to move on, yeah. Sorry, can you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're right on time.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any questions for me on the piece or in general?
No, but thank you for being here and listening to me. So
You're very welcome. Great job. It sounds good. Keep it up. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. I can give you a 5-minute warning if you'd like.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
That'd be great.
So our next performer is Ms. Sarah Fultz, who is a recent UWSP graduate. She graduated in December with a degree in clarinet performance and business administration, or just, yeah, business administration. She was a winner of a co-winner for our concerto competition on the Mendelssohn concert piece 2.
Fun.
She's very involved in our very young composers, the Central Wisconsin Symphony Orchestra program, and our Delta Omicron chapter. So she is preparing for her graduate school auditions, and she'll be playing the Osborne Rhapsody for you.
Excellent. All right. Very nice job. Very nice job. That's quite a blow. Good for you. Good for you. Okay. How long have you been working on this piece, out of curiosity?
I think I started in about September, October-ish.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So I was reading a little bit about this piece. Did you know that it's not originally for clarinet?
Yes, it's for bassoon.
Right. Yeah, I didn't actually know that. I thought that was an interesting tidbit there, because I think we can sort of adopt the mentality of a bassoonist a little bit when playing this piece. Kind of that melancholy sound. I mean, clarinet is obviously a pretty good melancholy instrument as well, but yeah, I think it was worth noting. Good, good. Yeah, a few things, just big picture that kind of stuck out to me. One of the big things, obviously, with this piece, since we have so many, fermata type situations, a lot of breaths, caessuras, things like that, is just the overall pacing of the piece. And then in tandem with that, our breathing. Because some of these slurs are pretty long, they go on for a while, and so we kind of have to plan what we're going to do, in terms of breathing, in terms of how we want to pace all of these different, because there's so many choices you can make. I mean, he does provide a lot of guidance and instruction on what he wants, but there's still a lot of wiggle room there. So I think some of that is, again, just planning it, and just practicing planning your breathing and practicing incorporating those specific breaths every single time so you can get used to it. It's just like anything else with practicing. You've got to do it a lot of times before it really becomes, second nature for us. Breathing is not typically one of those that just kind of comes naturally to everybody. A lot of us, we all have to work on that over time and getting really good breaths each time. So you want to make sure that good breath where you're not taking in tension when you breathe in, because you want to have ample air left over to finish that last note. That's the other thing too, is one important thing to remember with this piece, and it's going to be, it happens a lot of times, so it's going to take some work, but making sure the ends of phrases all have this nice taper to them, and it's a nice round sound when you finish each phrase. One thing we typically slip into as clarinetists, I think, when we see a breath coming, we're anxious to get to that breath, and we tend to kind of cut off the end of the last phrase to get ready for the next thing, because we're worried about our air, worried about how much we have. So again, the more you can plan that, the more you have left over, and just make sure you take care of each entrance and each exit of the sound. Both are equally important. I really liked the opening. It's really beautiful, very quiet, very smooth. That was great. When we get to the second line, when we have that first quarter note triplet, the E flat G C, make sure that has plenty of room. We aren't dealing with a regular 1-beat triplet, right? This is over 2 beats. So, and you're only at quarter note equals 60 roughly. So it's a pretty slow triplet. So just make sure you spread that out. And then in these next two lines 2 and 3, you're only at about quarter note equals 80, give or take. So the 16ths really aren't that fast. They look fast on the page, and there's a bunch of them, but don't let that get into your head. Remember, it's only about 80, so let's see. About that fast. Dee da 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 dee da 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 dee, right? So no faster than that, right? So when we take that pickup on the third line, right there, it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be super fast and showy. It can just be a little more relaxed, and we're still kind of figuring out what the character of the piece is, so we don't have to give it all away yet. So can we just have you maybe just start from the beginning one more time and play up until that part I just played for you? Good. Good. Yeah, yeah, already a lot better, a lot better. Those 16ths were beautiful. They felt really relaxed and open. I could hear every note. Um, when you do arrive at that G, that half note G, you are in the new tempo now. So whatever tempo you chose for those 16ths, you kind of got to stick with it now. You kind of wanted to go back to that slower speed a little bit. So make sure you just kind of keep that flow going. Yeah, really nice, really nice. Um, so the next section is where we have all of these 16ths kind of back to back. And I'm kind of wondering, what's your general approach usually when you're learning a passage like this? Like, how do you tackle all of these 16ths?
I start pretty slow at a slow tempo with a metronome, and I go up in like increments of 1 or 2, depending on kind of how the piece is looking.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, thankfully for us, there's a million ways to practice 16th passages like this. So we have a lot of different choices. Definitely the starting very slow. I will always give that advice to anyone and everyone. I still abide by that rule. I think it's good to stay slow for a little while too before you worry about bumping up the tempo unless you have to learn the piece super fast. But yeah, you really want to hear every single note and it really be beautiful. I would also, for like the shorter passages, like at the end of the third line, you can maybe incorporate some rhythms, some back and forth rhythms. Have you done some of those like dotted rhythms to get it even? Yeah, so and then going back. That's always a good way to do it. And then oftentimes with some of these passages where these aren't really quite scales, at least not the ones we're maybe super familiar with. So sometimes we can get stuck on a note or two. And I would encourage you also to build from like the first 2 notes of the 16th note grouping. Just take like the first 2 notes and then add on 1 note, add on another note. But really make sure you play, like, say you've got the first 4 notes. Like I would play it probably 7 or 8 times and make sure it is squeaky clean before you add that next note. It's one of these things where like the more patient you are to give it the time it needs, the longer, sorry, having trouble with my words right now. It's gonna build a better foundation so that those notes are really gonna be there for you when you get nervous. And they're going to be a lot more solid that way. So I would just I'll take a little more time and go back through, slow some of that stuff down, make sure we can hear every note. And then sometimes you might find that there's one note in particular that's giving you some trouble. You can record yourself, listen back. If there's a note you're rushing over, I like to go back through and kind of hold that note when I get to it and then move on, and just to kind of like repair that in my brain, be like, okay, no, this note needs attention. It's kind of getting glossed over when I'm doing this passage. So things like that to sort of help make sure we can hear everything. Let's see here. Can we go to the next to last line of the first page? Just right after that first breath where it says a tempo. Good. Good. Yeah, I think that was better. Are you taking a breath before that last slur on the next to last line? Right before the C sharp, the low C sharp?
No, I'm taking it between the B natural and C, between B2.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, I'm wondering if you can make it from where you started all the way until that A flat on beat 4. You see what I'm talking about? And then breathe there right before the C sharp. And then you have a full tank of air to get all the way to that low F sharp with ease. Can we try that once? Yeah, how did that feel?
It felt about the same, honestly.
Okay, okay. I mean, it's whatever works for you. If you find that you're continually having a difficult time making the phrase, then you might want to find either a new breath spot or a place where you can breathe in emergencies, just in case you're running out of air a little earlier than you're used to, maybe. Yeah, I mean that was good. But yeah, just kind of again, just having that plan. Sorry.
5 minutes.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you. Good, good. Let's keep going. Let's just go to that next. Keep going right wherever you stopped. At the Poco Pimoso.
All right. Anywhere you want me to stop?
Let's see. How about the end of the second line on the next page? On that C sharp. Okay, yeah, very nice, very nice. Yeah, that time the 16ths were a lot clearer to me. That was really good. Yeah, I chose this spot a little bit because, and this happens a little bit later too, but back to where you started on those high A's, and then a full measure later, you have the high A, and then you jump down to the throat A. Um, right? And that happens a couple times where you dip down the octave back to back, and you just want to make sure that those A's are really in tune with each other. You know, that octave is a really solid octave. Sometimes the throat A felt a little flat to me, actually. So you can maybe lift up a finger or something. I don't know if you're putting down fingers there. Yeah, so just kind of play with that with the tuner and just make sure that's really where you want it to be. And then in that 16th note passage at the top of the second page, the clarity was really good. Just make sure that tongue position doesn't drop as you climb into that the clarion register. It seemed to kind of sag a little bit, and so the tone kind of got a little bit spread, and we want to keep that nice and beautiful. And then the same thing happened a little bit 2 lines down. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. So this is the third line, second page, second measure, that 2/4. You have a really tough job in those 2 measures because you have 3 Fs, and all 3 of them have different pitch tendencies, right? So that one's tricky because you got to make sure that thumb F isn't low. It tends to, for most of us, it tends to be a flat note. There's a couple things you can do. Sometimes I add my side key, my bottom side key for those Fs, if it's not too much of a change. And then that low F, you just got to keep that really focused and keep that tongue high so that that low F is as in tune as it can be. We're going to do the best we can, that low F, I know. Can we just get into that, just that little phrase there? If you want to start at the beginning of that line, that would be fine. Yeah, yeah. It was already better. It's already better. So just now that you're aware of it, you can kind of work on that a little bit more. The only other comment I was going to make, I know we're running out of time. There's a lot of moments in this piece where you have pickups into a new phrase, right? He really seems to like this idea of all these like 3/8 pickups or 2/16. We just always want to make sure that they sound like what they are. We want them to sound like pickups. So we want them to lead into whatever they're leading to. Sometimes the pickups sounded like a very kind of demonstrative beginning of a phrase, and we want them to sort of be leading to what kind of the peak of the phrase is going to be, or kind of the first dominant note. So just kind of keep that in mind. Kind of all these little details are what really make this piece kind of sparkle. So I think the more detailed you can get into that, the better. Yeah, so just kind of the character stuff, and then the 16ths, just not letting them get frantic, not letting your mind get frantic when you see those 16ths. And the more you do that slow practice, excuse me, the more at ease you'll be when you get to that, and it's not going to feel like a big deal. But it's already well on its way. So yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for playing.
Hear me okay?
Yes,
Yay, thank you so much. Thank
absolutely.
you all for playing. I realized I didn't introduce myself to the people at home who don't know me. I'm actually, I'm Dr. Manassera. I'm the person, if you need anything during this guest series, you can email me and I'm happy to assist you. But I thought if you have the time, could we do some questions?
Sure.
If anybody has any questions about Mr. Ross's career or what it's like to play in the President's Own Marine Band. And if you at home would like to ask a question, you can put it in the chat, or you're welcome to use the hand raise icon, and Lexi will call on you. So any questions? I have some if you can't think of any.
Surely we've got some.
We'll give, yeah.
How exactly did you get like involved with the President's Own Marine Band?
So how did I join? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, basically.
Right. No, great question. So basically, the Marine Band will have auditions, just like a symphony orchestra would. But the auditions only happen if there's a set number of clarinet players, of trumpet players, of flute players in the band. So only when somebody retires or decides to leave the band for some reason would there be an opening. Otherwise, you just kind of gotta wait until there's a vacancy. For clarinet, thankfully, we're one of the bigger sections, so vacancies come open a little more frequently. So they'll post the audition on their website, and in kind of all of the publications that post professional job audition postings. And usually, I would say probably 3 to 5 months in advance of the audition is usually when they post it, sometimes earlier. And then for the Marine Band specifically, we kind of have our own way of doing it. We do open auditions, so you don't have to send a tape, you don't have to pre-record or anything. We just ask that you submit kind of like your application materials, and then the music you can just download online and prepare. And then when we actually have the audition, there's usually 2 to 3 rounds where they hear everybody and then narrow it down to fewer and fewer people until they get to 1 or 2. And that's kind of big picture how the audition process works. But I'm happy to answer more specific questions about that if there are any.
There's one in chat.
Sure.
That says, do you have any audition advice, good things to focus on, staying calm, etc.?
Sure. This may sound like a little bit of I don't mean this to sound facetious or snarky, but really the best preparation, the best thing you can do for your own like mental well-being for an audition is really just preparation. Like that is the single most important aspect of feeling good about what you've done and what you're going to do for the audition panel. our auditions are usually blind auditions, at least for the first round or two. So you're not gonna have to like look at anybody while you're playing, if that helps you. It's good to practice kind of the environment that you'll be in for the audition. So if you're really serious about doing it, then practice with, you know, playing for some people that are behind a screen that can't see you, and have them, you know, maybe write comments for you, and record your audition process at home. Kind of do little mock auditions for yourself, just to kind of put yourself through the process of it. It's one thing to prepare a bunch of excerpts in a solo in isolation, kind of in a vacuum, and you can just kind of play whichever excerpt whenever you want, or practice whichever one you want. But to be kind of called on like, hey, we need you to play A, B, and C in this order, and it may not be what you're used to, you kind of want to prepare for every possible, you know, scenario, so that you're really ready for anything that can be thrown at you. And again, that's just kind of really deep preparation that starts early. And again, that slow practice idea we talked about, that's a big component of that. But yeah, I think that's my answer for that. Yeah.
We have another audition question in the comments. They said, thank you. They said, how many times did you audition before you got the job? I know for me personally, I have auditioned several times for that band and I never got the job. So how many times did it take you?
Oh goodness, that's a it's a very pointed question for me specifically. Everybody kind of has a different story. There's some people that auditioned one time and they got in the band the first try they auditioned. A lot of people came back 2 and 3 and 4 times before they got their job with the Marine Band. For me specifically, oh goodness, I auditioned probably at least 7 or 8 times. It may be closer to 10 or 11. Yeah, it was a lot. I advanced, I think, 3 out of the last 4 times that I took the audition, but the times before that, I didn't even advance out of the first round. And, you know, I got really close a couple other times and didn't actually get the job. So I definitely was very tenacious when it came to the audition process for the Marine Band. And I think, yeah, I mean, if you're looking to do auditions, it does require some level of tenacity and not being deterred from your goal, because sometimes it takes a little while, and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good question.
Awesome answer. Thanks for letting us know. It makes me feel better about all the things that
Sure.
I auditioned and applied for things. You just need to win it once, though.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
the real thing. Any other questions? So now that you have the job, can you tell us what is the best part about your job and what is the least best part about your job?
Okay. Yeah, so I'll start with, I guess, the least best, if you will. And it's all a matter of perspective. Everybody has a different experience with the job, and some people like certain things more than others. I think it's tough. A lot of people don't like marching and playing, and we do perform a bit of marching in our jobs. We do perform for funerals at Arlington Cemetery. We do parades during the summertime at the Marine Barracks. We kind of do a weekly, it's called a parade, but it's more like a military ceremony with marching, but it's not like a street parade like you think of. So we do a good bit of that. Again, mostly during the warmer months, not so much during the winter or fall, but that kind of maybe isn't what people expect. Maybe people see the Marine Band on tour maybe and think we're always just a concert band, but we do marching gigs. So that's probably what you'd hear most people say. Yeah, and I mean, marching in the heat it's not my favorite thing in the world, but you know, it is what it is. As far as my favorite thing, oh gosh, I mean, kind of the simple joy of performing concerts. That's a really big one. And typically, pandemic aside, we would normally be on concert tour for the whole month of October, kind of hitting a different region of the country each year. and you're playing pretty much a concert a day, every single day in a different city for 29, 30 days. And you rotate between 3 programs during that time. So you prepare those programs a couple weeks before, and then you take them on the road. And that was really fun because the audiences, they don't hear the Marine Band a lot. They don't live in DC, you know, whatever. So the audience is really enthusiastic, and that just makes it more fun to play for them because they're really excited about being there. So that's probably my favorite thing about the band.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. I too would not want to march in, Nikki.
Right. Yeah,
I like to sit in my office when it's hot.
absolutely.
Any other questions or comments that you'd like to make about anything that was said today, or any questions you might have for Staff Sergeant Ross? Anybody back here? They're all beat. It was such a pleasure having you.
Such a pleasure being here. Thank you.
And I would like to also say it's such a pleasure to have all of the people tuning in. It's really great. This was recorded. We'll have it on the web page if anybody wants to go back and review anything with their scores or anything like that. But it was just a huge honor to have you here. So thank you so much. It was so good to see you again.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Great job, everybody. Thank you.
Next week at the same time, we'll hang out again. You're welcome to come.
All right. Excellent. Excellent. Sounds good.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Lexi, for your co-hosting assistance. Anybody have any questions for me about the future guests or how everything's working? I'll keep this on a little bit. They're gonna clear out. Hi, Jenny. Thanks. Hi.
This was awesome. It was so
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you so much for attending.
Yeah, I had my video off because I was knitting.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I like to doodle when I'm listening.
Anyway, wow, how wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much for
It
coming.
just froze for me. So anyway, I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, have a good one. Yes, I did. And I will do a better job. I did not clearly state it in the email what pieces were going to come. I'll be sending out an email about the next one, and I will have the pieces that would be played. And if they are not public domain, I will have a scan for educational purposes. So that was my fault. I will have the names of the pieces for you next time. Thank you so much for coming. Bye, Jenny. So everyone, I'll send out an email, but I would like to send a thank you note. I put a thank you note for everyone to sign outside my door. But not some people are virtual. And the other thing is I would love it if you had something very specific you wanted to thank him for. If you could write it on a note or send it in an email, I'll print it and send it with a thank you note. So, yeah, thank you all so much. Can someone help me? Let's stack our chairs. They were stacked over here, and we'll leave it there. That's fine.